While 2020 has been a dreadful year on account of the impact of the COVID pandemic, and yes, India did see a huge amount of GDP slump in the first quarter of this fiscal itself, 2021 in fact is likely to be a year of hope as well as recovery. In fact, with an effective vaccination program around the corner, and also the fact that we have already seen a huge slump in 2021, India may see record growth of 11 to 12% itself, according to Swaminathan Aiyar, 18 Hours Consulting Editor. In fact, he does mention that services forms nearly around 50% of the Indian economy, and as such, an effective vaccination program will give confidence to the people to come back and shop as well as travel, and that would mean that the services economy revives, and hence we may possibly see a good amount of upsurge in economic growth come second half of 2021 itself. He also believes that while he has been a major critic of the finance minister's fiscal prudence, with fiscal stimulus at being just around 2% of the overall GDP, he mentions that he has been fairly surprised and has been proven wrong in terms of the fact that despite a low fiscal stimulus, India has shown a very good recovery. In fact, he also mentions that a low fiscal stimulus or a prudent fiscal prudence on account of the finance minister also has some good positives. One of the factor being that a low fiscal stimulus also means that the debt to GDP ratio for India is likely to be just around 82%, versus had it been a huge fiscal stimulus, we would have seen a debt to GDP ratio higher than 90%, which also would have been not good from a long-term basis. He mentions that this, coupled with low interest rates and a low fiscal stimulus, is good from the fact that it will give more fiscal room to the finance minister to go ahead and help the recovery of the economy. He mentions that overall, in terms of the Indian economy, infrastructure spending should be a priority, as that is the consensus according to the most of the economists. Having said that, he believes that India needs good amount of reforms on the land front, labor laws, as well as in terms of the farm laws, and also India needs to improve the export competitiveness in order for the growth to be at 7 to 8% on a sustained basis. He emphasizes that India land acquisition is still a huge problem in India, and overall, if we have seen the progress in terms of the farm reforms, it seems that the government does not have as much of a political capital to push for difficult reforms. Having said that, he believes that the Indian government is fairly serious in terms of the privatization of PSUs. He believes that privatization would be one of the big reform stories of 2021, and he does not expect any major development on labor, land acquisition, farm reforms. He states that government is very serious in terms of the divestments. 2021 in fact would see big divestments of PSUs like BPCL, Container Corp, Air India, and that should be good overall for the Indian economy. He also mentions that overall, if we look at the social reforms as well, India needs to improve the labor participation, especially of the female workforce, in order to reap good benefits of the demographic dividend, and if that is not done, we may see the demographic dividend disappearing slowly. He mentions that India needs to be fairly competitive in terms of exports for India to grow at a sustained growth of 7 to 8%. He states that no country in the world has grown at 7 to 8% on a sustained basis unless they have seen an export growth of anywhere in high teens, and hence he emphasizes the need for India to become competitive on the export front, which requires a good amount of reforms on the land labor front as well. He mentions that in terms of the Reserve Bank of India, well, RBI has clearly stated that RBI's focus would be in terms of growth over inflation, and that RBI would not be in a hurry to hike interest rates and would be tolerant of slightly higher inflation. And overall, on the economic front, India definitely has done good even during COVID. While India was already seeing a downward trend in terms of the economic growth since past few years, during COVID, the macroeconomics of India definitely look good with the kind of low debt to GDP ratio that we would be seeing on account of low fiscal stimulus and also on account of the record forex reserves that we have seen. So overall, yes, brace for a good record growth of 11 to 12% in 2021 according to ET Now's consulting editor Swaminathan Aiyar.